just to close out the point about communication, obviously, here is this generation which is very tech savvy, and obviously prefers to talk to the device, and the world revolves around the device. If you're a manager or if you're a company, I mean, are there some policy guidelines, or are there ways, right? Because I know that on the one extreme you have like people who have their secretaries who write for them, and then of course you prefer email versus you have the WhatsApp messages, and of course the hybrid and the remote working has changed a lot of that, right? So any kind of tips or do's don'ts, like when it comes to grabbing their attention, at least to ensure that they respond to you, or they see what you're trying to say.
Um, my advice is to meet people where they are. And I would say it's not about what I want. It's like if my objective is to help them do their best work, because as a leader, I really, my job is almost to work myself out of a job by helping everybody else do their best work and just be overseeing. It's much more, we're going from a commander type leadership to a coach. So I'm overseeing, I'm helping, I'm nurturing, I'm enabling and supporting, and trying to do that very much on an equitable basis. So if I can meet people where they are, if you are a texter, and if Mary is really likes email, and somebody else is what platform, and somebody is super on Slack, and using asynchronous channels, I think that's where you can get really quite effective with looking to see what conversations need to be live, what can be delayed, in order to maximize everybody's time and reduce the number of meetings, which is a huge thing. But really helping people do their best work. It's not about what I want. It's about helping me connect with you in the way that you're going to be most effective and be able to communicate most easily with me. And the more I can do that, the more I can help you communicate well and be listening. I do like to use the CEO of GM, Mary Barra, who this really sort of summed it up in terms of when you talk about policy, and it makes me smile. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, people sort of like, what's the dress code? There are 150,000 employees at GM, and the policy for the dress code at the beginning of the pandemic was dress appropriately. That's it. It's like, you're adults. I trust you to know what to do in what situation, rather than writing, pages and pages and pages, this situation, that situation, whatever. And then in, I think, May last year, May 2021, they came up with a policy for working, and it was work appropriately. Now, this is brilliant because it puts the responsibility, as in so many of the things we're looking at now, on the individual. And for a Gen Z, it's like, you're treating me as an adult, and I will take responsibility. I will take accountability for doing this right. If you tell me that I need to get the work done, now I may need support and sort of more building blocks without micromanaging me, helping me understand how work works, because I think that's some of the things that have been evolving and that we need to be more specific about in these, very much evolving times. But if you give me responsibility and trust me and respect me, that I will do the right thing, generally people actually step up to the plate and do it.
Yeah, I think, Sophie, I remember watching, it was Satya Nadella's message recently, where he says that in the hybrid world, if you think about it 2x2, there is sort of synchronous and asynchronous on one axis, and working together and remote on the other axis, and says that today the challenges have become such that a leader has to be good in all four boxes. You're no longer going to have that synchronous remote, synchronous working together. You have to be good. So if you have a Gen Z who says I'm better off working from home, well, then you got to meet him there or meet her there. And if there's data that suggests sometimes they want to come back to office, and if that's what they prefer, then that's what you do, or that's what you keep in mind.
And everybody wants to do all of these things. I mean, but there are lots of Gen Zs who want to be in the office part of the time, not all of the time,
Mm.
but in
Right.
order particularly to be able to interact with more senior people in the organization, because that's going to help their career progression. That's going to help their learning. That's going to help them sort of hear about new projects and new possibilities and explore other possibilities within the company. So those are important interactions, which also can be facilitated in an intentional way in virtual environments too. So, the whole thing about where we are and where we're going in the new era of work is really being intentional, being very proactive and intentional and purposeful about how we're working, how we understand how we work, because we just kind of like got on with it. We copied what somebody else was doing, and they sort of told us, like, oh, okay, well, we'll just do it this way. And now we actually are having to design it, and technology is coming in and changing, and we have to sort of think about the process now based on all the different things we've been doing and how we're going to do that differently. And so there are lots of things we have to think about. So it's a lot more work to begin with, to get this set up right. And it's going to be a lot. It's going to be pretty messy for the next several years. And I that's my technical term, because there's so much change in how we're doing things, in working across generations, in what happens when new technologies come in and then your competitor does something else. And so what does that mean in terms of how you change? Because customer behaviors change when they're using different technologies or different services or different approaches to how services delivered from different companies. I mean, there is ongoing change all the time, and it can certainly feel exhausting.
Yeah.
But it is, the volatility from the pandemic is certainly less now, but it's going to continue to be dynamic. So I do see the last 2 years as being sort of helpful in that way to understand that we can meet the challenge, we can deal with this new complexity, the unpredictability, and make pivots when we need to, which we won't have to do in the same time.